Let's get the flag salute. Attention, salute, pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We'll start this evening with our citizen participation. And as always, it's a 3-minute limit per person, 12-minute limit per topic. I'll call your name. Could you please approach the podium? We'll start out, Mr. Kenneth Crawford, please.
Good evening, Mayor Stevens and Commissioners. My name is Kenneth Crawford. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. In April 2023, a tornado severely damaged the Lions Club ball fields. FEMA required the removal of the top 6 inches of surface soil to meet federal benchmarks for recreational use going forward. The city of Shawnee paid approximately $250,000 for the remediation with the hope but not guarantee a federal reimbursement. This investment was made to restore public recreation, not to prepare the site for permanent buildings and parking lots. The site is governed by the instrument of transfer authorized under Executive Order 1947, which requires the land to be used strictly for the public recreation purpose. A 50-year lease for non-recreational use, such as a permanent child care facility, may violate deed restrictions and could trigger a reversion of the land back to the federal government. Between 1999 and 2006, voters in Shawnee supported a sales tax to fund a regional park and sports complex. Public minutes from 2001 to 2005 confirmed the city's commitment, commission master plans, community hearings, and formal land evaluations. Yet today, no such park exists, and we are instead witnessing the erosion of even more recreational land. To uphold transparency and accountability, I filed an Oklahoma Attorney General's complaint in April of 24, an IRS whistleblower submission in November of 24. These filings are not isolated actions to Shawnee. They are part of a broader effort to initiate youth sports reform across Oklahoma. Based on documented activities at Lions Club ball fields and other ball fields throughout Pottawatomie County, my research reveals systemic pattern, financial opacity, land misuse, and unchecked lease agreements involving municipal, state, federal, and tribal sports facilities. This is just not a Shawnee problem. I've compiled and submitted multiple case studies that demonstrate how taxpayer-funded fields and facilities, assets, have been quietly commodified and diverted from their intended public use. These filings could support a large-scale investigation into a state breakdown of fiduciary oversight in the erosion of public recreation access. I respectfully ask the council to vote no on the 50-year YMCA lease. Restore the Lions Club ball fields for recreational use as FEMA intended. Uphold the instrument of transfer deed restrictions and recommit to the regional park that voters funded but never received. 2 ball fields have already been lost to school expansion. Don't let 2 more vanish under your watch. This land is legally, ethically, and historically public. Let's return it to the people of Shawnee and to the youth who were promised these fields.
Thank you, Kenneth. Next, we have Mr. Deloyd Brown.
Thank you for hearing me. I live on Wheeler Street, and we have a animal problem. Cats, number one. People across the street has about 7 cats that they allow to live in their garage. I get up every morning and clean up cat feces from my yard. Once one cat defecates on the property, then every one of them's got to come over there and do their thing. My house, I clean it frequently from being sprayed. And my wife's lawn furniture, all of it has been ruined. They get puke a hairball up, scratch it and tear it up. We've got rid of all of our lawn furniture because we got tired of replacing the cushions on it. She's got tired of going out in the morning and finding a hairball on her table and stuff like that. And so we have none of that right there. I've tried getting stuff from the internet to put in the yard, and all it did was make me sick. I've tried chasing them off. I've tried mothballs, chili pepper, and all other things. But anyway, they're just running, and not only that, there's several cats that live up and down the street. That's about that too. Also, there's a dog problem. 2 years ago, my wife had surgery. She had 3 surgeries, and she was walking up and down the street. I was out repairing tornado damage. I live over by the high school. And my friend and I, she was confronted by a dog. Had I not been there, I don't know what would have happened, but I chased the dog off. And the next day, the woman across the street, I was a walker, I take her trash out for her. The neighbor come down, and he's cussing me because I called the dog pound on her. The dog, animal control people, did come out that time. I've called them numerous times. Most of the time I get the recording, and if I do call them, they're out on a call, and I understand that. I mean, they're busy and stuff like that, but I'd like for them to come out. They did come out that time on the dog instance, and I told them what was going on, and the dogs come walking down the street, and they looked at the dog and said, yeah, the dogs. And it was the dogs that had confronted my wife. Had I not been home, no telling what had been happening. The guy that owned the dogs, like I say, I was over dumping a new person's trash. He was cussing me and throwing his arms up and down the air. I think he's on some type of drugs. Come down and got my trash and picked up a milk bottle and a soap dish or soap bottle and took and threw them in the middle of the street. I did have a pistol on me, but I don't want to shoot nobody by no means. So I just scrunched down behind the backyard, let him go down the street. It took him about 20 minutes to get down the street because he kept walking back and forth. I mean, that's, anyway. And today, I've got dog droppings in my yard from some stray dogs that have shown up. There's a little brown dog and a black dog that have shown up. And showed up last night, and the dog across the street, which is not taken care of. The poor thing just, yeah, sir.
3 minute time.
Okay. Am I done? Okay.
Thank you, Deloyd. Next up, we have Alfred Chanson.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
As you obviously know, my name's Alfred Chanson. I'm also here representing my wife, Rama Townsend Chanson, who is the owner of the land identified as the Doris Townsend Revocable Trust along the eastern border of the Salazar Homes Incorporated R2 zoning change request. My speech tonight is just in reference to the Planning Commission case number RZ0205. We applaud the issues that were raised by the public in the Planning Commission's comments during the June 4th meeting before moving forward with its recommendations to the city. It should be noted that the builder is filling a vital need towards growth in a specific housing market. That being said, we firmly oppose the builder's current proposal, not as to the type of the dwellings, but as to the number of units reflected in the plot plan, as the intent is to construct 6 fourplex buildings for a total of 24 units, with each unit having 2 apartments. The primary concern is population density. The visual representation on the plot plan does not appear alarming until you realize the potential number of occupants as significant. With 96 persons occupying a parcel of land, only 1.86 acres, with essentially half of that dedicated to parking and drainage. It's not hard to do the math. Aside from the issue of the population density is a traffic safety problem that would be created as the parking entrance closest to East 45th Street does not allow for sufficient distance for adequate reaction time between drivers exiting the parking area and having to cross oncoming traffic turning onto Sydney Drive from East 45th Street. Based on my personal and professional experiences as an apartment renter, homeowner, and a retired federal law enforcement officer of 45 years, the proposal as presented will likely lead to increased social tensions, not only between renters, has a perceived negative action of one will impact or intrude upon the other, but also upon the surrounding homeowners in the area. The Planning Commission's requested studies for traffic, drainage, and landscaping should not be the sole decisive issues remaining as to approve or disapprove the zoning change request. By reducing the number of buildings from 6 to 4 would allow for increased green space between buildings, buffer occupying residents, provide additional setback space from East 45th Street, and provide off-street parking for tenants' guests. It is asked that the builder's proposal be modified before approving the zoning change request so that equal consideration is given to social-economic considerations of the surrounding community. I say this having the hindsight of serving a community as a previously sitting member on a zoning board of adjustment for the town of Flower Mound, Texas. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred. Next up, we have Robert, I'm going to mess this up, Senesrun or Smesrun? Smesrun.
Norwegian.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor and Commission. I am here to discuss exactly the same zoning change request that our previous speaker had. He covered some of the things that I intended to talk about, so I won't go into them too heavily, but I'll be right up front with you. I don't want it in our neighborhood. We don't want it. When we purchased our home in November in that area, the R1 zoning was a significant factor in making a decision to purchase there. And out of the blue, all of a sudden, there is a request to change it to R1, heavily densely populated area there. But there are other considerations besides my own. As the previous gentleman mentioned, there are already traffic problems. The East 45th Street intersection with Harrison is already congested. It is overtaxed, and in fact, I think there has been 4 crashes there since I have been here in the few months that I've lived here. And that will only get worse with the kind of population that is planned to be added to that area. Drainage problems already exist, and so if we cover that parcel of land with footprint of buildings, driveways, and parking areas, obviously the land's ability to absorb the water will be gone, and the drainage will continue to get worse. Salazar, the builder that is proposing this, are based in Yukon. It seems to me that Salazar could build single-family dwellings under the current zoning that area already has. I certainly wouldn't be opposed to it. They'd receive no pushback from me, but we don't want this thick, dense population of apartment buildings on that piece of ground. Most people here probably wouldn't want that in their neighborhood either. When we went to the City Planning Commission meeting, my understanding that the decision there was to not rezone this, but rather to look at a conditional use permit for that area. Am I wrong on that? Was that changed back to rezoning? Because they were talking about leaving it R1 and changing it with a conditional use permit for that development. Anybody know?
We're sorry.
Pardon me?
They can only listen to cameras.
Oh, okay. Well, it seems to me that conditional use permits, from my experience, become forever conditional use permits. So I would certainly be opposed to that if the intent here is to circumvent the normal zoning process. And so I would ask that you vote to deny the change to that zoning of that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Next up, we have Mr. Fred Turner.
Good evening. I think I was here at the last meeting and, I don't know, talked for, as the newspaper said, over half an hour on the budget. And I had a couple of commissioners and the mayor say, well, you got to understand, these budgets are complicated things. So we don't want to take the time to try to explain them to you. Now, if the city commissioners, you can delay this budget. You don't have to vote to approve it. And plus, another thing I want to correct that the mayor said, it wasn't that long ago that the city people had 5 minutes to talk. Do you not remember that? No, I guess not. But it wasn't that long ago. And we used to have 2 meetings a month. And that was probably happened, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. And I think that you need to say that this city is a transparent city is almost being unfair to the word transparent. Now, there are some things in the budget, so if the city commissioners don't understand the budget, don't vote to approve it. Make somebody explain it to you. Like on the Shawnee Municipal Authority, you can see that they have a negative 18% cushion on their funds. And they're supposed to have, by the footnote in the budget, says they're supposed to have 5 to 20%. But the Shawnee Municipal Authority has a negative 18%. And it's very hard for anybody to look at this budget. If you need some more help from your CPAs to explain how these budgets work, I think the citizens of Shawnee could understand them. But the way you do it is it goes transfer in, transfer out, it goes from one fund to the other. It's very confusing, and I think actually confuses the people. Now, one other thing, there is no law against the city commissioners answering questions for the citizens. Now, for the mayor, the attorney to suggest that there's a law that says you can't answer it, well, if there is, I want him to quote the law. That says the commissioners can't answer people's questions. And of course, he won't answer that because he couldn't answer the questions. Well, that's all I have to say. Any questions of me? I'll try to answer questions you have. But if you don't understand the budget, don't approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
Next up is Butch Latomsky.
Mayor, Dias, my name is Raymond Lutomsky Jr., nicknamed Butch. Most of you know me as Butch. I was born and raised here. I played ball on the ball fields, but I heard a past city manager after one meeting say, the ball fields that are destroyed, they're Lions Club, because it was called Lions Club baseball fields. Well, I did research, and some people say I did too much research. 1947, the Naval Air Corps and the airport, the Shawnee Airport Authority, had a contract written up, which is filed in the county courthouse, page 170 from 1 to 5. And I happen to have called the Department of Navy in the Pentagon and talked to someone, which I do not remember the name. And they said, there's no additions, deletions, or corrections. So in their eyes, the contract states and is still there. But who got this stuff going in 1962 was the Honorable Judge Lloyd Henry. Him and several people, businessmen in our city, said, we need to get the YMCA out of where they were at, out to this land area, along with baseball fields, which, because Lloyd Henry was an avid Lions Club member. I don't know if he was the Noonday Lions, Shawnee Evening Lions, or what, but it was Robert's dad, and they started building what is now the YMCA, what is now Lions Club baseball fields. Somebody said, well, there's no record in the city of Shawnee stating that that is either a park or not. Shawnee Lions Club Park is down at Federal and Airport Drive. But in the 2015 Park Department analysis. Halfway through the report, it shows Shawnee, Lions Club Park, and ball fields.
3 minutes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Butch. Next up, we have Ms. Jessica Nickerson.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I want to take a moment tonight and recognize the Community Development Department led by Mr. Ryan Harkins. In a world where we're often consumed by the immediate, I think it's refreshing to have people who are looking towards the future and what we can build. Agenda item 9 tonight is the housing assessment, and this alludes to that foresight. This assessment could take Shawnee looking forward to 10, 15, 50 years from now. Last week, I had the privilege of studying with a few site selectors. When they looked at what barriers there are to bringing in new companies and expanding, it wasn't infrastructure, it wasn't incentives, it was housing. For a city like Shawnee, where sales tax drives our budget, economic growth is important. It is the survival of our city. That growth depends on our ability to offer quality, attainable housing for the workforce that we want to attract. Simply put, if we don't have the roofs, we don't have the future. I strongly support this assessment. I hope you do too. And I just want to give another shout out to their team. They've been impeccable as we look towards the future with the Housing Alliance, and I'm appreciative. Thanks.
Thank you, Jessica. Next up, we have Mrs. Julie McCormick.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I just have a few things to say. I am in favor of growth and development in our community, including new housing developments. However, I have a concern regarding the addition of another retention pond for the four plexes and its impact on Gordon Cooper Technology Center's property. The Gordon Cooper property has current retention pond issues, including washing out, concentrated land erosion, and changing runoff occurrences, particularly in our furthest northeast section of our property. I urge the city to ensure that contractors take responsibility for changing how runoff occurs onto Gordon Cooper Technology Center's property. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ms. Cindy Berger.
Hey, y'all. This was a really big agenda, so I wasn't really sure what I wanted to talk about tonight. But I do want to say that with all the planning and development, I actually attended a meeting, a public meeting that some group held to plan a park development in the south side of town. And one thing that I noticed is that, and I am not here to talk crap about any particular person, but Ed Bolt was our mayor, and there were over 60% of Shawnee residents that showed up to vote him out. And he continues to be involved in things like planning park over in Dunbar Heights, and it looks exactly like the two parks that were done here with the tax money that a whole lot of people had an issue with. And most of us do want to see Shawnee grow and get better, but whenever you're involving someone in the planning that was voted out because of all of the planning he was already involved with, it's a problem. I mean, I don't understand why we have these contracts if we're not gonna, we got a new mayor for a reason. And it's because Shawnee was not happy with the direction Shawnee was going. So if we continue to move forward in the direction that we are, all it's gonna do is have more people showing up, like tonight, that are not happy with it. When I first started showing up to these meetings, hardly anyone ever came. Now we've got lots of people here speaking up, and I hope you guys are taking notice because there's a lot on this agenda. There's no time to look over it. I work a full-time job. I am involved. I try to go to committee meetings. I try to attend. I go to school board meetings. I come to these meetings. I'm involved in I'm on an advisory board for the city. I am involved, and I feel like I have no idea what's going on until Friday before the agenda meeting, and I have over 800 and some pages I'm supposed to read. You tell people to stay involved and keep up with city business so we can, and I want to, but I don't even know what to ask my commissioner about when I don't even have time to read everything that's going on. So please consider either doing 2 meetings a month or something to get us more access to information so that I can ask my commissioner questions and I can be involved. And please stop including people in projects that were voted out. We do not want the same projects to continue for the reason why more than 60% of the people voted for Mr. Eric Stevens. So, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Next up, we have Mr. Ingram. I'm going to say Gary or Derry.
I'm Darrell Ingram. I'm a homeowner down on Ellie Court. The changing the commission wants to change the zoning from R1 to R2. I'm very against that. It will hurt my property value, which I just moved in January. Moved from Oklahoma City to here. We also are very concerned about the parking. You have 48 parking spots on the property and 3 entrances into the parking. The rest of the visitors will have to park in the street. The street traffic off the 44th or 45th Street is tremendous at 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock. Also in the evening, 3 to 5 o'clock. The traffic's tremendous out there. Have they done a survey? They were supposed to. We were at the council meeting, or the board meeting the other day on the planning commission. They were going to do a survey on that. I have seen nobody out there surveying and measuring how many cars actually travel up and down that street. The speed limit is 40 miles an hour. They travel at 45 to 55 down that street. That's what happens with the accidents down on the corner. My vote is no, do not change it.
Thank you, Derry. And next up, we have Mr. Rob Morris.
Good evening. Real quick, last month I also noticed the $100 speech. I hope you guys realize that. Everything is a 3-minute time limit. Public hearings, public comment, everything is. Because otherwise, if there is no time limit, I could stand up here for 5 hours and just talk. And that makes absolutely no sense. So that 30-minute speech cost all of us $100 because the city attorney gets paid at minimum $200 per hour. Now tonight, the city attorney's contract is one of those that's not on the agenda. Once again, for another year after year after year. Why is the city attorney's contract not reviewed? Now, let's go on. Number 5, for the Shawnee Ford contract, we're giving them $300,000. What that used to buy was that paid for one of their employees because we supported the funding of that employee, and then incentive money, marketing, and more. We had a city-appointed board member, which was the city attorney. At one point, I think it switched to the city manager. I wonder if anyone could tell me, is it still the city manager, or is this going to be a general public appointment? In the contract, it says all financial records of the contract are public documents per the Open Record Act. That means the meetings, which they, get older, sight doesn't get any better. That means the meetings which they make those financial decisions over that money are too. They acknowledge that they are a public body by the mention of the act. Only public bodies have to follow the state rules. From OMA, any entity created by a public trust, the city of Shawnee is a public trust. That's from OMA, so that means they're a public body. Now, not all of them. I do agree with Mr. Brackeen back in 2021 when he said only parts of the contract are actually applied. From ORL, any entity created by a trust, county, city. How did Shawnee Ford come to be? The city of Shawnee created it by merging with the Chamber of Commerce. So I think that kind of speaks for itself. Now, number 11, for the tiny homes. 2,200 square feet is not a tiny home. That could probably use some explanation. And if they aren't here to answer questions, they shouldn't get anything. I apologize for rushing so quick. I know I only have 3 minutes, and I'm not lucky enough like Mr. Turner, which power to Fred, for getting 30. The point in time count. It would be nice that the city would acknowledge the downtown property owners and the HRC neighbors that said that most of these people aren't from here. And it's about 60-40 on who's from here and who's not. Whereas the former mayor and former city manager told us we were all liars for saying that they were all from here. It'd sure be nice if the city would own up and apologize to them. Not me, to them. Let's see, last. Ms. Byrd, our state auditor and inspector, agreed about the sales tax we just voted on, what, year before last, 2 years ago now? It's not actually a forever tax. Thank you. And the dialogue is just so you all don't have dialogue.
And next up, we have John Bob Semple.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. First off, I just want to express gratitude and excitement around the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant through the Department of Transportation. This opportunity to partner with the University of Oklahoma Hudson College of Public Health to see improvements to our street safety is massively important. When we look at the 10% of our residents that use walking as their primary means of getting around, this has workforce development massive implications. When we look at our littles and their safer roads and routes to school, those that don't have mom and dad who can drop them off, who are walking to school, this has massive implications to their ability to safely get around. When we look at the opportunity for folks for recreation or for whatever their reasons of getting out on foot and active transportation, it's a really big deal. So I just want to thank you for your support in making these intentional steps towards improving our safety on our streets and our roads, and let you know that at POGO, we want to be a part of anything we can do to help push those things forward. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. And next we have Mr. Greg Arbuckle.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you for just a minute. As a fairly new resident of Shawnee for the past 2 years, I want to kind of introduce myself and let you know that I'm here as someone interested in seeing Shawnee move forward. I was previously in Wewoka for 45 years, moved up here a couple of years ago because I have a job up here with, it was originally First National Bank, now Sovereign Bank, and so I am invested in Shawnee. And as part of that investment, I spent many years working the Lions Club ball fields. And so I'm here to kind of throw my support behind using that FEMA money to continue with that process and restoring those ball fields and getting those ball fields going again. As an official and as somebody who worked many evenings and days and nights, a lot of time there, I saw hundreds and hundreds of kids, adults and everything come into Shawnee and participate in the Shawnee area. And so again, I'm just here to throw my support behind what Mr. Crawford and Mr. Latumke was talking about, and hopefully we can rebuild those ball fields and get those things back up again and get the kids and the adults working here in Shawnee and participating in our youth sports again. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Next up we have Ms. Teresa Cody.
I'm bringing gifts. This is just a little reading material that some research I did, and you could, if you want to read it in your spare time, it kind of goes along with some of the things on the agenda, just to kind of give you the idea of where I'm coming from, because I'm kind of tired of all this, and I'm sorry I didn't greet you properly, Commission, Mayor. I, like Cindy and the others, have went through this, and it's overwhelming. I don't know how this commission hadn't had a heart attack going through this. There's so many federal pieces in this that could go wrong either way, and we're relying on one person to explain all this to us. Oh, there may be more. I guess we're not privy to all that. I truly believe most of the people who are here tonight understand some of the challenges you have inherited and face. Over the years, the city has been pulled back and forth by different groups from one project to another. Many times it was just political posturing. Instead of collaborating, we start a project, it never is finished. Over 33 years, my business has been downtown. I've tried. I'm tired. I'm tired of pulling back and forth, the denial from the people in the community. They deny their responsibilities. They pat us on the back. They pat us on the head. They never bring us to the table until we are a sidebar. That's all we are considered, as a sidebar to the solution. Many times, people are using government dollars as tools for their own personal agendas. I found things in this agenda tonight that could be used that way because it doesn't spell out who it's going to. My agenda probably is a little different than most. I just want to make a living in my business and take care of my customers and my family, myself. I want to do what is best for my customers to show them that they have a value in their dollar when they walk into my store. I want them to be excited to drive through my town. It is time to stop all of this political interference from the NGOs, the politicians, the politics, and the outsiders who don't even try to understand our town. The time is now. We have to stop. Tonight I'm offering my solution. The reason I'm doing that is because the agenda is way too big. I'm going to offer the solution to, I'm going to challenge you each first to have meetings in your wards. That's why I walked those streets and helped get that ward voting passed, so I would know who you were representing. Tonight I'm asking you, who are you representing? And I will set up a meeting for my Ward 3 commissioner myself.
Thank you. All righty. Item number 2, consider approval of the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion
A second.
and a second. And now we will call the vote. Item carries 6-0. Item number 3, presentation of the Pet of the Month by Animal Control. There she comes.
This is Sheba. She's been with us for about a month now. She's about 7 or 8 years old. It's the most excitement she's seen in a while. So this is fat. It's not a tumor. Just saying. She's very sweet. We do have her on a diet, so it is working because we're seeing a little bit, in her waistline here. So, say hi.
Mark, she
$10 takes her home.
I'll pay $10 for her.
See, look at that.
Mark, she's in love.
This is the most I've heard out of her. She's normally really quiet, so I thought, I'll bring her tonight, Yeah, you've heard her out there, I'm sure.
I think she said the pledge with us. She was pledging. She's so cute.
Even don't let her fool you, she might have a little bit of arthritis, but she can jump in a truck. So, she's proved me wrong.
She's precious.
Okay.
She's like, excuse you.
Sorry. We have one kitten right now. He'll be available, I think, tomorrow. He's very cute.
Kind of been thinking about one.
And again,
Seen enough movies seen enough movies with my kids and they have kittens and okay.
He's like the cat that we do have right now is a kitten. We call him a junior. He's still a kitten, but he's kind of junior size. But anyway,
Mark, she's back. Just wear white and you'll never see her face.
yeah, I'm sure you can sit on my knees.
It's just love. It's glitter.
Absolutely.
It's glitter. She's so cute. I know, she does.
That's the deal of the century right there. Somebody needs to adopt that young dog. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, now we're on to item number 4, consideration of an agreement with Elevation Land Surveying to provide professional survey services at Shawnee Twin Lake number 1. Calling Seth Barkheimer for staff report.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for all of you, I think this will be familiar. This is, I think, the 5th phase of survey out at Shawnee Twin Lakes number 1. This replat will encompass Johnston, Magnet A, Fry, Hart, Reno, Curry, Rowe, Kaufman, and Eckel lot areas. It will complete the process of creating lots and blocks in addition to roadway, right-of-way access easements and utility easements. Again, as we've done previously, the goal is to have stakeable, clear, and easy to understand lot and lease boundaries out there. This contract is specifically for $189,000, and staff does recommend approval of the item. If you'll recall, in our previous year contracts, they've been smaller. They've been about $80,000 a year is what we've been doing on annual. This one is basically the conglomeration of 3 years into one contract. We're trying to expedite the process to try to get this done faster. So you would typically see that at about $240,000, but we have a little bit of economy of scale, getting it all done at one time. So the number's a little bit lower, but this will finish up the remaining non-platted lake lot lease parcels.
Okay. So we're getting it done quicker for a little bit less money.
Yep.
Basically.
Yep.
And this will be the final.
Yeah, this will be the
phase of-
final replat to establish the lake lots in the surveyed tracts.
Okay. Any questions for Seth? Okay. And we get a motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. And we'll call the vote. Motion carries 6-0. And on to item number 5, consideration of a contract for economic development services between the City of Shawnee, Potawatomi County, and Shawnee Ford, Inc. And we'll call on Mr. Mark Simpson, our City Manager, for staff report.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, don't have a whole lot to add here. You have the contract in your packet. Excuse me. We're happy to partner with the county this year on this contract, answer any questions you have. Staff recommends approval.
Any questions for Mark on this contract? No? Okay. Can we get a motion on this?
Make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Motion and a second. Call the question. Motion carries 6-0. On item number 6, consideration of a grant agreement with the Federal Highway Administration, FHWA, and the City of Shawnee to create a Safe Street and Roads for All SS4A action plan. We'll call on Ron Harkins, Community Development Director, for staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. As noted, this is a grant agreement with the Federal Highway Administration. This has been a long time coming, in the fact that we've been waiting on the Federal Highway Administration's headquarters in Washington to approve the final disposition of the agreement. This basically is a grant program that would allow us to create a safety action plan that would address mobility and safety issues in the community. We've had a number of people talk about accidents, whether it be vehicular, ped, bike, etc. This addresses all 3 modes of transportation, not just one. I want to make that clear. It is a community-wide planning effort, so the public will have multiple opportunities to be involved. We'll be taking work that has already been done previously and incorporating that as well. with the idea that this can be some of the first steps in the next iteration of building a complete transportation strategy. The Planning Commission is aware of this project and grant coming to you. They were excited to see this come forward. We've been waiting on Federal Highway, like I said, to give us the green light to go forward. They've done that, so that's why we bring it to you tonight. It is essentially a $250,000 roughly grant. We have the local match already budgeted in our department budget for this year, so there's no additional funds that we would need to acquire. With that said, staff recommends approval, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Could you kind of talk a little bit about the partnership with OU?
Sure. Well, that's the next agenda item, but we had worked with them to help write the grant application. They are willing to come alongside and partner as a sub-recipient, so they would do most of the work for us and do a lot of the public facilitation. We would be involved in it still. They would do a lot of the grunt work on the ground, a lot of the data crunching and data analysis, those types of things, and then help facilitate additional walk audits, additional public meetings, things like that, that just helps stretch our capacity and get it done faster, and have more public input and more touches with the community. Federal Highway, just since you opened the door, I'm going to walk through it, even though it goes to the next item. We ran the sub-recipient agreement and this concept through Federal Highway at the state and federal level. Both groups signed off on it and gave us a green light. OU, College of Public Health, has done this type of work in other places in the state, and so Federal Highway is comfortable with this arrangement, so they have no qualms about that either.
Any other questions for Ryan on this item? Okay. Thank you, sir. Can we get a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the presentation for the Federal Highway Administration.
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second. We'll vote now. And motion carries 6-0. Skip ahead to number 7, so I jumped the gun. Consideration of a sub-recipient agreement with the University of Oklahoma Hudson College of Public Health and the City of Shawnee to create a Safe Street and Roads for All SS4A action plan. Mr.
You
Harkins
didn't
again.
jump the gun. You arrived right on time.
Right on.
Having said that, as I noted, the Federal Highway Administration has reviewed the sub-recipient agreement. This is in lieu of doing consultant requests for proposals and consultant selection, and having to do that contracting process. OU is comfortable doing this type of work. The College of Public Health will take the lead as far as OU's representative. There'll be some assistance with the College of Architecture, doing some additional work as well. Grad students, research assistants, things like that. We've been very specific about who's involved with that, and we want people that can help get the work done quickly, because we're trying to be on a shorter time frame and have this done on a compressed time frame in order to meet federal highway requirements. But we feel like this is a great way to go forward and stretch staff's capabilities. Again, it gives us additional opportunities to have touches with the public and get input from multiple parts of the community, not just one transportation set of users or another. But with that said, I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Any questions on number 7? Can we get a motion?
I'll move to approve. Second.
And a second? Item 7 carries 6-0. On to item number 8, consideration of the acceptance of the 2025 AARP Community Challenge Grant Agreement. Again, Mr. Harkins is up.
I'm just going to grab the stack. It'll be easier. So this grant is a unique grant agreement. It's a national competition that AARP sponsors. There are a number of communities or groups that apply every year. We have applied in the past. Our groups in the community have applied and not been funded for anything. But we are very fortunate to announce that the City of Shawnee has received $15,000 from the AARP Community Challenge Grant to do modifications for those age 55 and older throughout the community to do additional work to make their homes more habitable. So examples of work that could be done would be wheelchair ramps, grab bars and showers, things that modify the home to make you as a dweller in that dwelling unit stay in place longer. It was written with the focus in mind originally of Dunbar Heights and Ward 3, but again, this is a grant that we can use citywide. There is no match requirement. So this is $15,000 of free money, and we know it won't go far, but we're going to try and stretch it as far as we can and do it in conjunction with other things like our Love Your Block activities and things like that. The item on your agenda tonight is your acceptance and approval and the authorization of signatures on the grant agreement. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Approximately how many people would this go towards? I think I read somewhere in here like 100 maybe.
No idea. I mean, we'll try and get as many as we can, but I know we could easily get a dozen, if not 15, 20. But again, it depends on what we're being asked to do. I mean, a wheelchair ramp could take quite a bit.
Right.
Depends on how we do it.
So does the person have to own their house or
Nope.
rent, whatever, it doesn't matter?
We're setting up the guidelines. We're trying to focus on those who primarily own their own home rather than a rental unit, but we'll try and take rental units into consideration as well.
Okay. This is for folks basically 50 and up, 55 and up?
Yes. Again, since it's sponsored by AARP,
Right.
that's their focused group. But again, this is money that doesn't require a match. This is money that we can use throughout the community as long as it's 55 and older. And again, it helps people to age in place. So it goes to the idea of preventing housing issues.
Do they apply for housing? What is how do they get the money? Do they have to, is there an application process?
There'll be an application process. People can apply to scope out the project, and we'll work with them to get either volunteers to do the work and we get the materials with the grant, or we'll pay contractors to do it.
Okay.
Staff is working through that application process right now. And this grant would not be possible. I wouldn't be standing here talking about this item if it weren't for the work of Sarah Dame and Kaylin Lindsay, our Housing Vista and our homeless program. Those two worked very diligently to put this application together and get it out the door.
Any other questions for Ron on item number 8? Okay. Can we get a motion on item 8, please?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second on item number 8. I'll call the question. Item carries 6-0. On to item number 9, consideration of an agreement between the City of Shawnee and Marvin Planning Consultants to complete a housing study for the City of Shawnee. And once again, Mr. Harkins is up.
Okay, so this is a project we had looked at to try and begin helping set a baseline of data to address an important issue in our community that deals with other aspects of the overall economy. We had first put this in a draft form as an RFP last summer, early fall, and with other issues, it just got pushed to the back burner. We brought this forward out to public advertisement late spring, and we issued a request for proposals that we advertised nationally for. For consultants, we received 12 proposals from firms or teams across the country. Staff as a selection team reviewed proposals, shortlisted 3 to interview based on grading criteria that was in the request for proposals, and then did teams interviews with those 3 teams. Marvin Planning Consultants was the selected consultant based on what we feel is the best fit as the selection team. This is a $125,000 agreement. The housing study would set a baseline of conditions as well as a forecast of needs, and then potentially work to develop a housing strategy that addresses in a comprehensive manner those issues. We feel it is another step toward implementing the comp plan for one. It also sets us up to go after additional funds either from NGOs or from the federal government for housing projects in the future. Money for this potential contract comes from both the capital improvement plan as well as the department operating budget. The consultant contract is in your packet with the staff report and their scope. Again, this would be not in a black box type project. This was going to be out front, a lot of interviews, a lot of small focus groups, a lot of public meetings. We are not going to do this behind closed doors. This will be out and about in the community. That is something that we were very insistent on with this scope of work. With that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Is Marvin new to us?
They're new to us. Some of our staff had met them at a couple of conferences. They've never done work for us as a community. They've not done work in the state of Oklahoma at the present time. They've done work in Kansas and Nebraska and other states on a variety of different projects.
Where are they based out of?
Nebraska, eastern Nebraska.
Why'd we pick them?
Selection committee felt they were the best fit. They provided in the interview the most complete set of answers. We felt like they were hitting all of the issues we felt were important in the community and that needed to be addressed, and trying to do it in a way that really hit all of the socio-demographic groups that needed to be touched and talked to.
Which is what, just very briefly, what?
Briefly, they included talking to tribal groups, all four tribal representatives from all four tribal governments. They wanted to sit down and talk with community members, business leaders, manufacturers. They wanted to be involved in the whole gamut, whether it be small groups, one-on-one interviews, surveys. They wanted a variety of public input options to put in front of people to get input, and they wanted to do that to base a more comprehensive strategy on going forward for us.
What would be your estimation of the amount of time that the study would take?
They have a schedule that we said 6 to 9 months. We can certainly try and compress that down if we need to. Part of that will just depend on how.
Seems like a pretty ambitious schedule, so that's kind of why I was asking.
Yeah, no, it is ambitious, but that's part of the reason why the contract is the size that it is. It encompasses not only that time frame, but the city limits, and then a step outside for a mile or so as well in terms of scope and geographical area. That gets you not only what's happening inside the city limits within different school districts, but also what's happening just outside that we don't always think about, but we know is there. And the data don't always reflect that.
How many projects have they done similar to ours?
They've done a number of housing studies. That was one of the reasons they scored so highly and got an interview. They've done projects, for example, in North Platte, Nebraska, which is about 20 to 30,000 in population, railroad town out in the Panhandle. That was one that really stuck out to some of the staff, and just the things that they try and put into their studies. The others had experience. Some had big city experience. Some had smaller community experience. Some of the consultants put projects in that we didn't feel like really fit what we were going through.
We didn't have anybody local we could choose from or in Oklahoma?
There was one team that had an in-state presence. They wound up being one of the finalists we interviewed, but when it came down to it, the committee was unanimous looking at this as their first choice.
Any other questions for Ryan on item 9? Okay. Can we get a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Okay, we passed 5-1 on this item. Item number 10, consideration of a contract with Redevelopment Resources to assist with the preparation of a new community development block grant consolidated plan. Again, Mr. Harkins.
Thank you again. At some point, there will be something other than stuff like this coming before you on that I bring, I promise. This is a contract that helps us with our consolidated plan. That document guides our community development block grant program over a 5-year period. We have to do one by law every 5 years to keep receiving CDBG funds. We're being asked to do this even though there is talk of changes at the federal level in programs like this. We still have that requirement in place as long as the program is in place. We have adequate funds from previous years that are unspent that we can use for this contract, so there are no city general funds being utilized for this contract. I want to make that clear. This basically gives us the ability to have someone, as staff is helping do a lot of the work, someone that has done a lot of projects like this and is currently working in this area on contract with a community a little bit larger than us on a daily basis to help us walk through and give us additional technical assistance, help put things together for us, and then get things out the door into HUD's office for approval come August. Having said that, like I mentioned before, we have previous year's funds from our CDBG program that can pay for this, so we have adequate funds in-house already without using the CIP or other department funds. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Would this be our first one to do?
No, it will not be our first consolidated plan. It will be probably the 5th or 6th because you're required to do one every 5 years. The existing one is on our website, but it is limited in scope, and so every year's activities have been limited in scope to owner-occupied rehab and demolition. The idea behind this one is to try and add additional activities to spend funds faster and to have more of an impact in the community. So adding projects, activities like public works, so we can do water, sewer, storm, streets, ADA ramps, things like that, to help stretch public works dollars farther, is one example of things we're trying to add this time around.
So have you used this company before? They're out of Wisconsin.
They are out of Wisconsin. We have not, the city, is, to my knowledge, has not used this.
Nobody close to our proximity?
So we advertised this nationally as well. We received 4 proposals. This one from Massachusetts, one from Idaho, and there was one from Texas. Dallas was the closest.
I mean, on my end is knowing the area.
Yeah. I will tell you one thing.
A little bit, and I saw they've done some stuff a little south. You know, most of it's been around Wisconsin and different places, but.
Correct. One of the things that I will tell you, Commissioner Seahorn, that stood out with this consultant is they're currently on contract doing this type of day-to-day administration in one of the communities they work with in Wisconsin. That was a huge plus for us as we're trying to deal with new staff at HUD's office and helping essentially train each other and get through that new process. So that was something that was an additional factor for us over the other consultant.
So they're doing this for $67,000 from Wisconsin. They're coming here to do this for $67,000.
Yeah, because staff is doing a ton of the work on this time around on this project because we're condensing the time frame into the summer. HUD is looking at asking their entitlement communities to have their new consolidated plan in their hands by August 15th. So the original scope that we had looked at was closer to 120, 150,000 to do everything, which would have been a new consolidated plan, first year annual action plan, and impediments to fair housing. With that change, staff took a bit more of a lead role and more of the work role, and they're taking on more of a technical assistance role, hence the contract being shrunk down.
These are pass-through funds. This is grant money that was already in, it's CDBG. Like
Correct.
Yeah,
CDBG
we're not, the
is,
city of Shawnee's not.
Yeah, the city of Shawnee is not expending general funds for this contract. We have this money through CDBG funds already.
You said we're required to do this every 5 years, is that
We're
correct?
required to do this every 5 years by federal law. So to stay in the program and be eligible for even our next year's allocation, we have to do this.
Who did the plan last 5 years ago?
The staff that we had at the time, and
Was it an out-of-state organization again that was involved?
No, it was probably staff in-house, and it was limited in scope just to the previous activities that we had been doing for multiple years. For a long time, the only activities we did in this program were demo of dilapidated structures and owner-occupied rehab.
Any other questions on this item? There's a lot of thinking going on. Okay, can we get a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Item carries 4-0. On to item number 11. Consideration of a request to transfer properties via donation to the Tiny Homes Foundation specifically located at 1407 North Center, 545 North Elm, 535 North Bell, 220 North Oklahoma, 223 South Oklahoma, and 1025 East 10th. And Mr. Harkins is up again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, like other nonprofits in our community, this is a newer nonprofit that has been working in the arena of housing. They focus by name on a lot of what we would stereotypically consider tiny homes, but they have been doing other types of housing projects throughout the central part of Oklahoma. They approached city staff about trying to see what the possibilities of having any city-owned lots donated to them for purposes of applying to the Oklahoma Housing Finance Authority's loan program. That requires a minimum of 5 lots or 5 buildings being constructed in order to be eligible, hence the 5 properties listed. We walked through a discussion process of here's what we think is available based on what we have. Are there certain ones that you're more interested in? And these are the ones that came up in the discussion. This is essentially a transfer of property similar to what we did with Bridges Out of Poverty, or with a couple of others like Habitat for Humanity. The difference that I would note in this MOU/contract, there is a caveat that they have a period of 18 months to obtain building permits and 36 months to obtain certificate of occupancy. So once you approve this, if you do so, the clock is running for them. If those milestones aren't reached, the properties revert back to us, and then we can do what we decide at the time is necessary.
Any questions for Ryan on item 11?
So, size of structures, I don't know, what they're like 1,500 foot under living space and 1,800 under roof?
Roughly, yeah. I mean, some of the larger lots get, I think they've done some units that get to about 2,200 square feet. A lot of them are the 12 to 1,800s that they do. The tiny homes themselves, when they build those, they're obviously much smaller, but units like this that they do are more in that range of size.
So how does that lay in with the existing,
their neighbors?
Baggett houses?
Yeah.
I mean, are we building a $200,000 house next to a $50,000 house?
That potential exists. It's going to depend on what's really there on that block. These are potentially larger infill homes, but they still can meet the zoning requirements. We feel like that's still a feasible possibility of fitting those homes on those lots without really any issues and still having adequate setbacks and space between buildings.
So who are we building them for?
They're building them for...
Are they just building them for resale?
Yes.
And to whoever wants to buy them?
Correct.
So there's no...
The idea as far as a target audience would be more the low to mod housing type of dwelling unit, dwellers that you're looking at in the community that really need more like workforce housing. So that's more their target audience. they can sell it to anybody, I'm sure, but we can certainly add that modification in if you want to add some additional caveats to the MOU.
So we're giving them a lot for them to, and I know it's a not-for-profit, but obviously there's profit involved in it.
Right. And if, I mean, for our home builder, I mean, if, like, that's.
Yeah, why wouldn't one of our local guys want to step up and do something like that?
Yeah.
We did do one RFP in the last year for a few city-owned lots, 6, I believe. We really didn't have any takers locally that wanted to look at that, so we just canceled the RFP. If a local builder wanted to have that discussion again, I certainly would be open to that conversation.
And I've been told by our home builders locally that they just don't know about things like that. So there's a miscommunication or a lack of communication there. So I think that it just needs to be put out there more openly instead of just on the city website, probably.
What, $900,000 investment, but you're giving them
A little over $1 million.
almost 1.1. $150,000 worth of lots.
And the OFO program that this nonprofit would be applying for is a zero-interest loan for those 5 structures that would be applying to get.
So they're getting some federal assistance for what they're doing?
State assistance, yeah. If you remember a couple of years ago, the legislature created a housing stability program. This would be that program they're applying to.
Where is the Tiny Homes Foundation located?
They're based out of Piedmont. They've done some structures like this over in Spencer, is my understanding, but they're headquartered in Piedmont.
Still?
Still. I know they've been maintaining a local presence in Shawnee and trying to be more active in the community, as well as the other communities they're trying to do additional work in.
Do all these lots have liens on them?
These liens have been cleared on these lots, so these are free and clear titles.
So how many lots would we actually have? I mean, did they
6.
pick and choose where they wanted?
They selected these as what they thought were the most feasible for them. We have, if you take these out, I think we're sitting at about 12, 15, but we can give you an updated number.
$2,200 square feet's a lot of house.
Definitely not a tiny home.
No,
Makes my apartment
hence
tiny
why I
home.
said the name is a bit misleading as far as the name of the foundation and nonprofit, but
The ones they built in Spencer, were they bigger houses like these two?
no, it's this size. It's
They
this
were
floor
size
plan.
right here. So
It's
it's
this
kind of
floor
this
plan.
setup.
Yeah.
How recently had they done those?
In the last 3 years,
Okay, so obviously they must have did well with those.
I have not seen them from street level. I can certainly go take pictures if you'd like.
And these aren't built on site, they're brought in, right, and assembled on site?
No, that's one that I don't know that part. I know in the past they've done some work with prefabrication, so that would just, if it were, it'd have to be something that still meets building code regardless.
I think some of our concerns is that the $10 off seems like an awful low barrier to entry for lots that other people might be interested in our own community. And can you speak maybe as to how that price tag at $10 kind of came about? Was that something they offered?
It was just a number that had been sitting out there on some previous contracts, so that just carried over this time.
Is that per lot or all 6 combined for $10?
All 6.
All 6 are $10?
Yeah.
Smoking deal. Any other questions for Ryan?
And again, if that's a piece of the MOU you wish to alter, you have that authority to do so.
We have the authority to change that dollar amount that we offer on the, so if we were to say $3,000 a lot.
They would obviously have the opportunity to
Decline, of course. I mean, I would be fine if we, because it's a really low.
My concern, and I don't know how this would work, but let's say they start building and then they get halfway done and neglect, and then what do we do? So we take them back, and then we've got these structures that are partially built, and And I don't know that that would happen, but if it did happen, that's a whole other mess.
So if a contractor was halfway through it on a project like this, what would we do?
Yeah.
We would try and find a way to take on the rest of the project and hire someone to finish it and then put it into production.
There's gonna be a lien holder involved too.
May I speak on behalf of the Tiny Home Foundation?
I think I'm good.
This is the head of the
It's
nonprofit.
got all the answers.
Sorry. Thank you for your time. My name is Bobby Robles. I'm the president and CEO of the Tiny Home Foundation. Before becoming the CEO of the Tiny Home Foundation, I built the first modular home factory in Oklahoma City, named the House Factory. Lance Wendell is the owner of the House Factory. He's also my partner on this project. He's the biggest low-income housing developer in Oklahoma City with more than 4,576 houses throughout Oklahoma. This project will not be stopped halfway through, man. We will have all the sets guidance to make sure the project is done. The reason why we decided to go with the bigger house, 3 and 4 bedrooms, sir, was because I was a homeless kid. I grew up homeless before I joined the military. I just retired after 27 years Green Beret.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir. Wanted to do something for the community, and I have with the monks and my relationship with them, so I do have a piece of my heart for this town. I want to help these families with these houses. That's why I'm not building the tiny homes. But these are not going to be that expensive because home funds help lower the cost of these houses. So we are not looking to make profit in this. We can even sell them to actually the lowest profit, and I will pay the $3,000 per lot. What I'm looking for is to get more houses since this lot's been empty for over 6 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Do we have a motion for item number 11?
Yeah, I'm gonna stare at Joe for a second. What would I need to say for the, so we want to make a motion to amend?
I approve as amended with the caveat that the price changed from $10,000 to $3,000 per lot.
Right.
All these lots the same size?
Where'd we come up with 3,000?
Just a number, I don't know.
Kind of like where we came up with 10?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know about that.
Have they been appraised, the lots?
No.
I thought we were supposed to have public hearings any time you gave away city property. You're giving away city property, you're supposed to have a public hearing.
Motion to defer to the next meeting?
He already made a motion, I think. Or is that
I haven't.
considered?
He didn't make a motion.
And then it
No,
wasn't
you just asked,
seconded
okay.
either, so.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
true.
You had an attorney when you asked him.
I think you did.
They're not giving it away.
Is there a question?
I've made a motion.
No,
Does it, do
there's
these,
not.
do
Anybody
these
want to
have to
second my
be?
motion?
I'm sorry. Commissioner Figner made a motion. Could you
Made a
repeat it,
motion to
please?
defer to the next meeting.
I'll second.
To the next meeting.
Motion to defer to the next meeting carries 6-0. On to item number 12, consideration of an ordinance creating Article 17 of Chapter 7 of the Shawnee City Code by enacting a new Section 1, establishing regulations for vacant buildings, requiring registration, maintenance, and security of vacant structures, providing for repealer, providing for codification, providing for severability, and setting an effective date. I'm calling Joe Vondran, City Attorney, for staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Privileged to be before you tonight on this particular issue as presented 2 months ago with the administrative hearing. We've been working diligently on preparing something for your consideration. Based upon some developments and some fine tuning that we wish to do, we're respectfully asking that this body defer that till the next meeting. Defer that to a future meeting. I'll let Commissioner Fickner's motion change my recommendation. We're requesting that we defer that to a future meeting so that we can refine some issues within the ordinance as proposed, and certainly would welcome any comments that the commissioners have or any questions that you might have with regard to the draft that is presently before you.
Any questions on 12? So we're going to make a motion to defer.
Second.
You got a second? To a future date.
Mark made it, I second it.
Motion carries 6-0. On to item number 13. Consideration of a request for a final plat for Shawnee Marketplace, Phase 3, case number FPL 01-25, applicant Brady Ali Properties, LLC. And back to Ryan for staff report.
I told you I would bring something very different at some point. So here we are at the start of that. This is, as noted, Marketplace Phase 3. It's a final plat request for essentially the southern area south, at the south end of Marketplace. So it would be off of 45th and Kickapoo, basically back behind Whataburger and CVS, and to the south of the last phase. This essentially accommodates a large box retailer that is currently going through engineering, building plan review approval as we speak. This went before Planning Commission after staff review. Staff really had no issues with this. Planning Commission, as you see in the staff report, recommended approval with conditions on a vote of 5-0. Those conditions are noted in the staff report, but essentially easement and improvement plans being provided to staff at the time of building permit application. Submittal is officially made. They've not done that yet, so we're not requiring that at this time, but that's a common thing that happens in the development process, so we're comfortable with that as staff. We feel this is ready to go forward, and we bring it to you with a recommendation of approval based on these conditions. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any question for Ryan on the conditions?
If we approve, even with conditions, the conditions have to be met. It's not a,
Correct.
okay, it's not a, we've approved and they
No,
just go to,
they
okay.
still have to do it.
Okay.
And we would not issue building permits or permits for public improvements or anything until those were in our hands.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. We will call this one. Motion carries 6-0. On to item number 14, public hearing regarding a request to rezone from R1 low-density residential district to R2 medium-density residential district for property located at 1402 East 45th. Case RZ02-25, applicant Salazar Homes, Inc., Allen Engineering Services. Calling Ryan Harkins once more.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a rezoning request, as noted, to go from R1 to R2. It is an area that is a rectangular tract just off Sydney Drive and 45th. So if you know where Gordon Cooper is, it is essentially to the south and east of their corner. There is a large residential single-family development immediately to the north. There is no R2 zoning in the vicinity, but you have R1, TA, transitional ag, and C1 in the area. The applicant is looking at doing a series of fourplex dwellings on the site. The site plan is included in your packet. The future land use map indicates the area as medium density residential on its land use designation. That features a density of up to 12 units, dwelling units per acre. Comp plan also notes that this as a designation can include a mix of lower density types, civic uses, and some limited higher intensity uses with connections to services. Staff normally does not suggest a area of spot zoning like this, but because of the ability to essentially be a transition piece to the single-family detached neighborhood to the north, we felt this was one time where it might make sense. This went through a review process. It also went to Planning Commission. Planning Commission went through a public hearing process as well. Comments that were made there dealt with drainage, parking, traffic. Planning Commission went through a very, I shall say, a healthy discussion about this request. In the R1 zoning district right now, you can do single-family detached ADUs, accessory dwelling units, duplexes and triplexes. We had talked with the applicant about they could do R2 to get fourplexes permitted by right, or a conditional use to do the fourplexes. They chose this option. They also looked at the idea, they talked and brought up the idea of a PUD, a planned unit development. Really, staff felt like what they were trying to do could be done either through a rezoning or a conditional use process. As Planning Commission debated the item, they ultimately came down to the recommendation of recommending to you as the governing body issuing instead of a rezoning, a conditional use permit, which would essentially be a step down from the rezoning. And with the conditional use permit allowing the fourplex units as proposed. With the conditional use permit, you as the governing body have the additional options to ask for additional things to be part of the approval. So if you wanted to change the number of dwellings, you could. If you wanted to ask for additional landscaping or things like that, you could. Those are just examples. To go back to what was talked about earlier in the public comments. With that said, in terms of options, you can approve as recommended, as applied and submitted to go to R2. You can deny the application completely, you can defer, or you can approve the conditional use permit. Planning Commission's recommendation was that you approve the CUP with the notes that there be a completed and submitted drainage study, a landscape plan, and traffic impact study. Those first two items would have to be done anyway as part of the building permit process. So if they weren't done before that point, they would be then required at that point. The traffic impact study would be the additional step. And that was because some on the Planning Commission felt like traffic off of arterials like 45th were issues enough, and that traffic citywide was an issue enough that that needed to be addressed. With that said, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
So originally when the applicant bought the property, was that whole thing platted or that front half not platted originally?
The front half was not platted, like
So
this lot was not platted.
So they hadn't made a decision on what they were going to try to do with it?
At the time, no. I think they've looked at some different options and tried to run the numbers on different things and came down to this as potentially their best option.
I can just tell you from driving that area every single day that we have major traffic concerns, and working at Gordon Cooper, I can tell you there's major drainage concerns that we're already dealing with. I wouldn't want to add to that.
The traffic is huge, huge problem.
I'm glad I don't have to go there for daycare services anymore. They're great, but.
I will remind, as a point of information, the site plan does show a drainage retention pond on the north part of the parcel to help accommodate some of that, knowing that some of the drainage issues were already there existing from other things, and that they're trying to address some of it on site as much as they can.
Could you remind us again, how large is this plat of land? You said 1.6?
Roughly, yes.
And how many occupants?
They are 6 fourplexes, so 24 dwelling units overall. The engineer is here as well, that they can speak to their proposal as well, if you'd like. But yeah, 2-story fourplex dwellings, 6 total. And 3 access points with parking shifted toward Sydney, and the dwelling units shifted to the east of the parcel.
Planning did not approve, or they shifted it to us?
Planning Commission
Conditions.
recommended approval of a conditional use permit instead of the rezoning
that
to
was the
R2.
surveying?
That was the traffic impact study, as well as making sure there was an adequate landscape plan and adequate drainage.
What will the traffic study tell us that we don't already know?
This should tell you if there's any additional measures that need to be taken on Sydney or 45th or on the property itself to address traffic flow issues. For one, if there's any kind of redesign to help alleviate or mitigate traffic issues on the site itself, it can help address that.
So how many complaints did you have on putting it?
On equipment,
No, on them putting that there?
Oh.
Because it's within 300 feet.
there were
that's the
roughly
same
about a
thing.
dozen people that spoke at
Everybody
Planning
within
Commission.
300 foot?
Yeah. Not everyone that received a letter within that 300-foot radius came and spoke. There were about a dozen. They shared concerns about drainage, traffic, and then just the density.
So our 45th Street widening project, that does extend to that point sooner or later, right?
Not
It does.
phase one.
I know not phase one,
Not
but-
phase one, no, but
But
eventually,
sooner than
yes.
later. I mean, sooner or later.
Yeah.
Later. Later.
I'm not going to suggest some of us might be in other places at that point, but hopefully many of us see it at some point.
Okay. Any more questions for Ryan on this item?
Like I said, I know the engineer for the applicant is here. They can talk during the public hearing part as well if you have questions for them.
Okay. And at this point, we will open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone here to speak for this item.
My name is Charles Allen with Allen Engineering. Happy to answer any questions. This is 6 fourplexes. It's kind of a long, narrow strip of land, and we've kind of turned the fourplexes so that they'll face each other, so that we're creating kind of 3 separate little courtyards for each of them, and then we've quite a bit of space between the backs of each building. And then on the north side, we are adding the detention pond. Happy to provide the traffic study and see what that will offer. So happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak for this item? Okay, is there anyone here to speak against this item?
I don't live near Gordon Cooper, but my daughter is going to be starting Gordon Cooper come fall in school, and she will be commuting to that area. So I have a lot of concerns because the traffic out there for me is a lot too. I see it. But for young kids that are going to Gordon Cooper, new drivers, that's a whole another concern for adding more families. I'd also like to see some of these types of plans and builders come to the south side of town instead of just giving away property on our south side of town. Maybe some encouragement from the city and ways to help build up the south side also, instead of just stacking something that's already fully stacked out there. Not fully, but it just doesn't seem like I wouldn't want it there. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak against?
Hello. I live in Northridge, so I actually do live kind of in that vicinity a little bit. I'd say no on this too, for the simple fact, if we have to do a traffic study and there's already problems with even from the railroad track, take the dump area up to Harrison, I mean, that gets crowded all the time. Anything east of that gets worse. So if we do a traffic study and it says, hey, slap another stoplight here, what do we end up with? All the mess that's in front of Whataburger that turns into a nightmare every day because now we have a stoplight every 300 feet. I mean, I think that trying to squeeze all this into 0.6 acres just because we can, when you've had people that live over there as well as people that work over there say they don't want it. For once, listen to the people that came and said, no, don't do it just because somebody wants to build something. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else against?
45th Street simply doesn't have the capacity now to handle the traffic. And this would add significantly to that, and it doesn't sound like to me that there are any solid plans to widen or modify 45th east of Harrison, and that's where this is. A lot of kids living over there, a lot of young families. Thank you.
Sir. I can tell you his name. It's the one I had trouble with earlier. That's Robert Smesrud?
Smesrud, yes.
Anybody else to speak against?
Hi, I'm Albert Chance again. There's obviously room for compromise here, so everybody can make this a win-win situation. I think the key thing is something's gonna go into that property. There's some type of development. So I'm not, as I mentioned before, I'm not opposed to the type of development. I just think we would be better served by limiting the number of structures on that property, which would reduce the total number of occupants and make it a manageable situation, because you create two situations with traffic. You got the 45th traffic already there, and I perceive that Harrison Street all the way down to Bryant is gonna get expanded, whether it be 3 lanes with a center turning lane, or if they make it 4 lanes. There's gonna be some type of development, expansion with the roadway there. I see that as a definite need. But again, without making too much effort here, something needs to give. Something needs to go into the property. I think it's a wise decision to put that type of a apartment type building there. You're serving a need in this community. I have the adjoining property right next to it, so I do have a vital interest in what goes on, what's going on there. And so it's a decision that you all have to make. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Oh. Butch, are you coming up? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Papa Long Cassidy. Raymond Joseph Lutomsky Jr., Butch. Good friend of mine, his wife had a wreck yesterday at 45th and Harrison. She has totaled her car. She has a rib broken, 3 or 4 that are cracked, and it's just, if you add more confusion, more stuff like that's going to happen. So I would suggest get a hold of PD, ask about how many calls, either 76 or 82s, going on that corner, and then make your decisions.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
We're talking about traffic, we ought to be talking about kids. These houses are built to be 1 bedroom, no garage. They're not homes, they're transits. They're people that are coming and going. They're a young age that can't afford the $2,000 house up the street, or $200,000, I'm sorry, up the street. But we need to take and consider kids' safety that are in the neighborhood already. There's lots of kids in that neighborhood trying to build homes. Thank you.
Could you tell us your name, please?
What was your name, sir?
Daryl.
Yeah, Derry, right? Daryl. Got it, Lisa? Okay. Anyone else to speak against? Okay, at this time, we'll close the public hearing. Any discussion on our end?
You know, I have a problem with it, just from a standpoint, the people around it made the decision to buy because everything was R1. and making an investment around that, and there's a lot of housing around that, and then to change it, you know, just in the middle of to me, doesn't seem right. But that's my take. I just, you know, they bought, when it was R1, presuming it would stay R1. And I know sometimes that's subject to change, but, yeah, I think in that location.
Have we acquired, for the future development of 45th to widen, have we acquired the property necessary in that area to do that?
In the area we're discussing here, that's not.
Does it stop at Harrison?
The answer is no.
Okay, so, okay.
I mean, it's a commercial, it's just right across the street from it, so. Or
That's what I
down
was
the
asking
street just a
earlier.
little ways, but.
I just didn't know if that was gonna
school,
cause potential
I don't
problems.
know. That's a tough one.
Yep. Any more discussion on this board? Okay. On item number 15, consideration of an ordinance to rezone from R1 low-density residential district to R2 medium-density residential district for property located at 1402 East 45th. Case RZ02-25, applicant Salazar Homes, Inc., Allen Engineering Services, Inc. And we'll call back to Ryan.
Okay, so as noted before we started the public hearing, in terms of options, the request is to go from R1 to R2. You can approve as requested, you can deny completely, and it would just stay R1. In the R1 district now, single-family detached, duplex, triplex, all allowed as permitted uses. Accessory dwelling units allowed as permitted uses. Those are things that we changed when we did the new development code about a year ago. R2 adds the fourplexes as a permitted use, hence that move. The conditional use permit, if you grant that, based on Planning Commission's recommendation, would allow that with any other modifications that you request. Planning Commission has asked for those items noted in the staff report for the public hearing. You can add others or modify them as requested as you see fit as the governing body. That can include layout, site conditions such as landscaping, parking, drainage, any of those things. Density is another issue as well. So with that, I can answer any other questions you might have. And a conditional use permit does not require an ordinance. It would just be a approval of that with the conditions noted, and then we would issue a certificate to the applicant saying what those conditions are.
And we would approve the conditional use permit again?
Correct.
Right? That's, yeah.
Yes, that is part of your legislative authority.
Any other questions for Ryan?
What we want to do.
The other option, if you feel like you need additional information or discussion, you can defer to a date certain. I will always put that out.
That's Ward 1, right?
Do what?
That's Ward 1.
Yeah.
We can,
Blame it on Daniel.
I thought so.
I would only say
Okay.
if you decide to phone a friend, you need to make that on speaker so everyone can hear you.
He won't answer.
I don't think that, yeah, he won't answer.
We'll
If
not
it's
be able
already
to hear
happened.
us.
Yep.
Loud city.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Ryan.
Now we're ready.
Do we want to make a motion on number 15?
I'll make a motion to deny it.
I'll second.
I second.
Oh.
Okay. And so we're going to read the ordinance for the denial?
There's no need to read
Okay,
the ordinance.
all right.
It's a motion to deny.
Who did you report as a second?
I believe Commissioner Fickner. That's when I heard him on the good side. So yes is to deny, correct?
Yes.
Yes, it's denied.
Okay, motion carries 6-0. Item number 16, consideration of a resolution adopting the City of Shawnee 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2026 through 2030. And we're going to call on Ms. Courtney Conrad.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Last month, we had a public hearing for the City of Shawnee 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2026 through 2030. Tonight, staff recommends approval for this 5-year capital improvement plan. Staff will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Ms. Courtney? Okay. Can we get a motion?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
So now we have to call on city attorney to read a resolution title.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution approving and adopting the fiscal years 2026 through 2030 capital improvement plan.
Okay. And motion carries 6-0. On number 17, consideration of a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2025 through 2026 budget for the city of Shawnee, Oklahoma for the period of July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Call again on Ms. Courtney Conrad.
The FY 25-26 budget was presented to you all in April, and we had a public hearing about it last month. Tonight, staff recommends approval for the FY 25-26 budget. City staff will answer any questions you may have.
Do you think sales tax is going to grow?
I hope so.
Well, that's the biggest concern I have. Yeah, we're down 5% this month, and yet we're having an increase on revenue, you know, showing. So, I mean, I think, and I know we can adjust whenever. And me and Mark had this conversation a month ago. Maybe we can always back up and punt, but I'd rather it being a little more conservative. But with inflation and stuff as it is, it may be what we need. So we hope, which we have a bunch of rainy day money, but we really don't want to get into that. So
But if we don't.
that's my take, is just, because it was about 4% as far as sales tax, showing sales tax increase.
For which one are you specifically?
Well, just look at the general fund with 16.3 million, and last year it was 15.6. Almost all the sales tax revenue was about 4 or 5% increase. I mean, just ciphering from no calculator in front of it, about 4.5%, 5%. And I know you know, which you use tax, you know, you showed it $800,000 less than last year. But little concerned, you know, I just hate to, on the business side of it, you know, it wears me out.
And to your point, we're prepared for any and all circumstances.
I mean, we can react, I understand that, but, you know, from a business standpoint, it's be conservative, and then we have, if we underestimate it, then we have a big chunk that we can do something with. That's my take on it. I'd rather be conservative. And I'm gonna vote for it, don't get me wrong, I mean, but I think the planning, we'd rather have money at the end of the year that we need to spend than trying to figure out where we're gonna get the money to make ends meet without pulling out of our rainy day fund.
But if we don't budget for it, we can't spend it is that accurate? We need to budget for it in advance.
Right.
And then if the money doesn't come in, we can pare back. But if we don't have it in the budget, we can't just throw money at, unless it's in a specific fund. Is that correct? That would have to be general fund, and it would have to be, or it would have to be appropriated funds.
And I think there's 2 points to be made. The first point would be, this year, we've controlled a lot of the spending towards the end of the year, so we anticipate the operating reserve to increase substantially, to your point. And then also, to put it simply, we're anticipating certain buckets to be filled. Some buckets are higher priority than others. And so if we do have a shortfall and we don't expect a 2 or 4% increase in revenue, then we know which buckets come last. And so that would be, those are identifiable very easily. So, and I appreciate your point that we are being as conservative as we can be. We're expecting that growth. Use tax is all over the place. And
But,
so it's
you
hard
know,
to
which,
predict.
the report, which, because I asked for that, and it's, I mean, it's, you're right. It's
crazy.
You couldn't estimate that if you wanted to.
Yeah.
We don't know why, and no one does. And so we're hesitant there to make any projections on that. We're just trying to keep that flat line as well.
And that may be a reporting problem.
It very well could.
He's not sorry. He's not sorry.
It's okay.
Any more discussion on this item?
No, I think it's tight, but I mean,
Yep, I agree. This June is not
we can
a,
always back up.
Yep.
And we know that, but it's, you hate to,
and we're gonna see those numbers here soon.
wait, I guess
Yeah,
like I said,
yeah.
the 5% on top of we already saw it, and we went, you know, in Oklahoma City, what they cut, there's 2%. 2 or 3. I mean, so everybody's a little bit, which Marketplace One, if we have a big box retailer come in, you know, it may make up more than that. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I got.
Okay. Can we get a motion on item 17?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve item
I'll
17.
Got a motion and a second. Call on city attorney to read the resolution title, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution approving and adopting the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget for the city of Shawnee, Oklahoma for the period July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026.
Motion carries 6-0. On item number 18, consideration to reschedule the July 21st, 2025 regular meetings of the Board of City Commissioners, the Board of Trustees of the Shawnee Airport Authority, and the Board of Trustees of the Shawnee Municipal Authority. And so, we need to have a discussion amongst ourselves on this item. We're missing one person that we can't really ask at this time. But we're gonna have at least 2, maybe 3, possibly 4 commissioners not be able to make the next meeting on the schedule of the 21st. I'm one of the ones that will be out of the country at that time. So some of our options are to reschedule the meeting to the 14th or the 28th. We may have enough for a quorum on the 21st. Not 100% sure yet. So,
I'd rather the 14th if I could. It doesn't really matter, but if I were to take a vacation, it would probably be the end of July.
okay, so,
I can be available the 14th.
are either one of y'all here on the 21st?
I will
I
be
am,
available
yeah.
on the 21st.
I'm not available.
So that's,
I would be available on the 14th, not available on the 21st, and then available again on the 28th.
14th to 28th is good.
Yeah, so I am also one of the
Mark?
ones not available on the
Either
21st.
one's fine.
14th or 28th?
Yeah, I can do all 3, so, yeah.
Okay, and you said you'd prefer the 14th?
Prefer the 14th, 21st would be fine. I'd rather the 14th if we reschedule.
Only downside being 14th, we don't have sales tax report.
Yeah.
Okay, good point. So do we want to,
Those can be sent
When
out.
do those come out?
Right, those can be sent out.
When does,
15th,
the 10th?
are they there that early?
Yeah. Okay.
I guess it is from the previous month.
It's previous
Me?
month.
I can. Yeah.
14th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So make a motion to.
we want to get a motion
move
for the
July.
14th?
Yeah, make a motion to move July meeting to July 14th. Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to move the meeting from the 21st to the 14th for July meeting.
I think so, 6, yeah. Yes, please. What day, is that a Monday? I don't even know.
Yes, it's a Monday.
It's a Monday, right?
Well,
I don't care. Want to do it during that?
Yes.
if y'all want to,
Is there a Thunder game on that night? That would make a difference.
are we going to make a motion on the time, or are we going with our normal time?
I'd like to do it during the day if we can. I have children.
Is there anybody that has a conflict with that timing not being 6 p.m.?
I can do it early.
6 p.m. is always, it's a summer month, so I'm available. People are used to it being at 6 p.m. unless it's very special.
Let's see, you thinking?
Question being moved with the public one.
Do we have to put the time down at this time, at this
Yeah.
moment?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I think
So
we're at
we-
6 o'clock so that citizens can come and
Yeah.
visit with us when they get off of work.
Okay.
I would love to be,
Well, yeah, if we do it
I
during the
would love
day,
to do it in the middle of
that's,
the day, but I think that if we need to, it's kind of, if we can, keep it at the time.
I spend those 2 to 4 hours during the day of still reading over the agenda, especially long ones, so 6 PM would still be good.
Who made the motion?
I don't,
6 PM,
I'm fine with 6 PM.
July 14th, 6 PM.
6
Who
p.m.
seconded?
I can't remember.
I don't even
I'm
remember.
not seconding anymore if it's at 6 PM, somebody else can do that.
I'll second.
Before you retract your second.
Retract it. Is that legal?
This is the,
Add a little humor to the meeting, guys.
So before we vote, I want to ask the city managers, how big a crunch is that going to put on staff 1 week? Good? Okay. So the motion was to move it to the 14th at 6 PM, is that correct? Okay. Chris?
it wasn't me, I believe it was
One of us.
Commissioner Ricker.
Whoever, you pick. It was
Okay.
both of us.
We'll go ahead and give it to Commissioner Richter. Okay, motion carries 6-0. We're officially 14th at 6 PM. Make my note right now. Okay, that was number 18. On to number 19. Consideration of establishing a Shawnee Downtown Revitalization Project Amendment Review Committee related to the City of Shawnee's Tax Increment Financing District, TIF, deferred from the May 22nd, 2025 City Commission meeting. We call on Ryan Harkins for staff report.
Good evening again. This was an item we first brought to you last month. The TIF committee, which would be an advisory body to you for the 2 TIF districts in and around the downtown area, has not met in some time. As we noted, some people haven't been in the community for a while that were listed on the committee at the time they last met. So we're just asking for appointments. You can appoint some, all, none, or defer to the mayor to let him make appointments, or you can defer the item again as you see fit. I'd be happy to answer any questions on process or anything else related to this that you might have.
Could you tell us, just for our satisfaction, when was the last meeting they had?
As noted in the staff report, in 2017 was the last meeting.
Thank you.
So it's been a while.
Yep. Any discussion, guys and gals?
I make a motion that we defer until the August meeting.
Okay, have a motion to defer to the August meeting. Have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second? Motion carries 6-0. On to item number 20, consider bids. A, Atoka Casing Extension for Highway 9 Widening Award. We call on Mr. Seth Barkheimer, Director of Engineering, for staff report.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sir.
As you said, this is a bid award for the Atoka Casing Extension for Highway 9. We opened bids on June 3rd, 2025. At that bid opening, we only had one bid. Staff and ODOT has reviewed and determined the bid to be responsive and acceptable. At this time, staff recommends awarding to Timco Blasting and Coating Services, Inc. the base bid for a total contract in the amount of $329,247. It's worth noting that 100% of this project will be reimbursed by ODOT. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for Seth? Okay, can we get a motion on
I'll make a motion to approve.
item A? I'll second. Item A carries 6-0. Item B, roof repair at the Shawnee Heart of Oklahoma Exposition Center Award. Again, Mr. Barkheimer.
Yes, sir. So one more time for me, as you said, this is a bid award for the roof repair specifically on the Fred Humphrey and Otto Cross buildings at the Shawnee Heart of Oklahoma Exposition Center. Again, we opened bids on June 3rd. At that bid opening, we had 4 bids. Since then, staff has reviewed the bids and checked references and determined Next Level Roofing to have the lowest and best bid. Their bid was for $449,800. And staff does recommend award. Happy to answer any questions. And again, this is funded through insurance funding from the 2023 tornado.
Motion to approve. I'll second.
Okay. Item carries 6-0 on item number 21, average monthly sales tax and budget reports. Calling Courtney Conrad again for staff report.
Good evening again. The sales tax for June totaled $2,465,075.10, which includes $3,697.30 in interest. This revenue is distributed across 8 funds. The receipts in June are from estimated May sales and final sale figures in April. June 2025 collections had a 1.07 decrease over June of last year. When comparing collections to the conservative budget projections for June, we are 5.71% below projections for the month and 0.09% above collections year to date. Use tax for June totaled $399,502.03, which is 10.94% below projected collections for the month. When you combine the use tax and the general fund portion of sales tax, the general fund is currently $208,268 below budget projections. On the third to last page of the report is a sales tax collections comparison chart by month for the last 12 months. This comparison includes Shawnee's peer cities of Yukon, Ardmore, Muskogee, Bartlesville, Stillwater, and Enid. These cities were selected with 3 factors in mind: population, city tax rate revenue, and revenue per 1% sales tax. Most of these cities saw a decrease in sales tax from June 24 to June 25. On the second to last page of the report is a use tax collections comparison chart by month for the last 12 months. This comparison includes Shawnee's peer cities of Yukon, Ardmore, Muskogee, Bartlesville, Stillwater, and Enid. Some of these cities saw an increase and some saw a decrease in use tax from June 24 to June 25. The last page of the report is a graph that shows the year-over-year sales tax growth by month. It also captures the South Region Consumer Price Index, as well as the average year-over-year change for Shawnee sales tax receipts over the last 12 months. 3 of the last 5 months have seen an upward trend when you look at year-over-year by month. Are there any questions?
Any questions on our tax report for Courtney? I think we kind of already discussed some of it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Item number 22, Administrative Report A, 2025 point in time count, Ryan Harkins, Community Development Director.
I am not doing this item solo, so I'm going to ask Susan Morse to come to the podium with me. Susan is one of the volunteers in the Homeless Roundtable that meets monthly. She does a lot of data for us, and so she actually put, I'll slide so you can just have that.
Oh, okay.
But she's going to walk through most of the slides with you to talk to do the data, the point in time count. This took a little bit of extra time, we were double checking some different data points this time around. And then we can talk about where we go from here.
Okay. As he said, I'm Susan Morris, and I help with the homeless program in terms of crunching numbers. So I'm going to talk a little bit while you guys read these. The point in time count is done every year. It's done across the United States. It's done on the same day, same time, and it is to count how many homeless people or children there are in a particular community. The point in time count this year was done on January 25th, and that's been a ways back. But as Ryan said, there were some issues with data and trying to collect information that we wanted to make sure was correct. There were 65 total responses to that survey. There were 4 duplicates, or people that said that someone else had already asked them those questions. And there were 4 with no answers at all, so that left 56 as the total that we were working with. Although it shows a slight decrease in the pit count, if you look at the next slide, from January 2024 to January 2025, that would appear that there aren't as many homeless people in our community now as there were before. However, the way the pit count was done, the nighttime count was only done in higher ground, and it was not done out in the community. So we would have picked up, I think, maybe not, but we would have picked up some additional people to answer those questions on that survey. So it may or may not be down 40.8%, but you work with what you have as far as getting those numbers. And I would ask that maybe you all think about volunteering next year for the pit count. It's an interesting process for you to go through anyway, but it would certainly help us have more volunteers and maybe someone who would go out in the night. Okay, so if you go to the next one. This compares the homeless population to 2024 and 2025 as far as male and female. There are actually more females in the city of Shawnee, 52% to 45% males, if you didn't already know that. So on our data, there are 52% females, only 31% of the people that we surveyed that were homeless were female, 69 were male. And another thing that we did do this year that we didn't do in years past, we asked if they were originally from Shawnee, which is a good thing to know. 61% of the homeless folks said yes, they were from Shawnee. 39%, almost 40, 39% said they were not originally from Shawnee. Now, I don't want to go down the road of the buses and trains and all of that stuff that are hauling homeless people down here and letting them off. But I will tell you that I-40 goes through our county. It goes through part of Shawnee. That is a way for people who are hitchhiking across the way, or people who are trying to get somewhere or nowhere, or I don't know, but a way for them to come through our county. So we may have a few more homeless people because I-40 goes down there. I know when I worked at Hope House, people would say, how come you guys have runaways from New York City or, Arizona? And it was because those kids were hitchhiking on I-40 trying to get somewhere, and the police picked them up. So I want you to understand that. It's not, there are people bringing people down here perhaps and dumping them. I have seen that myself. But far more, I think, go down I-40. That's just a way to hitchhike and get from one place to another. There are places on I-40, if you look on the side of the road, there's a cattle trail where people walk. So not only are they probably hitchhiking, but they're walking that way. So I wanted to make that point if I get off, or because I love data, you guys. I could talk about this all night. The next one shows the age of the people that we surveyed last year. The 35 to 54-year age group was 43% of the survey. This year, that same age group is 60%. So we have more people that are 35 to 54 years old. There weren't any children shown this year, although there were 2 families that had kids that we did survey. And there was one person that we surveyed, that was a female that said she was pregnant. Next one looks at race. You can compare 2024 to 2025. American Indian, Black, and Black were overrepresented in the homeless population. Now those were the categories that the survey used. I know Natives, American, all that, but that's what we had. An interesting thing was there was no one that admitted to being Hispanic. Take that for what it's worth. American Indians were overrepresented 27%. They make up 13% of our Shawnee population. Black folks make up 9% of our Shawnee, 4.8% of our Shawnee population. They were 9% of the homeless. Which one is next? I got them out of the way. Yeah, that one, okay. The next one just shows a couple of questions that we asked. Do you drink alcoholic beverages or use drugs? I think next year we're going to change that question to be a little bit different. We are able to change the questions however we want, but we have to be careful so when we compare it to the previous year, it's apples to apples and oranges to oranges. We also asked, do they have medical problems or physical disabilities? And you can see what the people said with their answer. We did ask if those things, drinking alcohol or using drugs or medical problems or physical disabilities was a problem for them getting housing and a job and that kind of thing. So obviously we're working on that. You want to change it? Oh, okay. I dropped my papers back there and I got them out of order. This is what happens when you have an old lady come up here and do stuff. Well, anyway, I'm not going to keep you all because I know you've been here a lot, but you can see that. If you go to the next one, I'll get to the one I'm wanting to get to. These are the homeless program resources that we have here in Shawnee. You all can read that. 2 full-time positions, AmeriCorps Vistas. We also have a homeless roundtable that may have anywhere from 10 to 35 or 40 people attend once a month. The next meeting is tomorrow at 1 o'clock at the Presbyterian Church on Broadway. I would certainly welcome any of you all who want to come to those meetings. We go over issues, we look at what certain homeless people might need as far as resources or solutions or that kind of thing. And also, we've recently had a panel on mental health because that's a big problem with the people who are homeless, and we had 4 people from mental health agencies come and talk to us. It was interesting. We identified several misunderstandings of terminology and stuff, but in the mental health field, for example, if someone comes to see a mental health counselor and they don't come back for 3 or 4 weeks, when they do, or if they do come back, the mental health has to do a new intake. It's not to build a new relationship because that relationship's already built, but it's to do a new intake. So in that sense, they have to start all over again. And that's their policy from their funding sources, that's what has to happen, and people didn't understand that in the past.
Where did you say the meeting is?
You're not, the
Presbyterian Church right down
104
here.
North Broadway.
On Broadway, just south of Boomerang Dining.
Boomerang, yeah.
And I'm sorry, you said once a month?
Uh-huh. Third Tuesday of every month.
Thank you. At, noon? What time?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, thank you.
This month, we're having the director of the Potawatomi County Safety Center come and talk to us because there are some urban legends that are going around about homeless people being in jail and things like that, so we're going to straighten that out. That's one of the things we do. So now if you want to go to the next one. This is, gosh, how to explain this? This is a continuum of care. There are continuums of care across the state. This is what funding is tied to. I'll just leave it at that. As you see, we are part of the balance of state. We are part of that light green and Potawatomi counties. Continuum of care goes all the way up to the Panhandle, which is ridiculous. I mean, that's ridiculous for us to be in that. We should have our own continuum of care here, and we're working towards that. I thought that kind of looked like a gerrymandered district of some kind. But anyway, that's what we work with. The next one, we have the local collective planning body, which is the Homeless Roundtable. We coordinate housing and services. We actually find housing for homeless people. Now, we don't find houses for lots and lots of people, and we're not curing it, right and left. But we are kind of like that old starfish story where you're walking down the beach. There's so many starfishes, little boy winery throwing them all into the ocean. And he looks at the person and he said, because it makes a difference for this one, and picks them up one at a time. And that's what we're trying to do. I think that's probably all. I haven't done this in a long time, so y'all be nice to me. Do you all have any questions? Or Ryan, did I say anything that was incorrect? All right.
We thought it would be more appropriate this year for you to hear the data from one of the roundtable members than just staff. They did the majority of data collection as roundtable members, and then the data crunching and analysis. I had the pleasure of walking along the railroad tracks for a couple of hours the day we did it with the mayor and another individual. We didn't find a lot of people, but we got our steps in along the railroad tracks.
I had a quick question. So
Sure.
one of the survey questions was, are they from Shawnee, or are they from this county?
It was from Shawnee.
Just Shawnee
Yes,
alone.
just Shawnee.
And so we didn't have a question that asked if the surrounding counties, because I know in the past, some of the pit counts, we would ask if they were from one of the surrounding counties or this county.
That's something we can add for next year.
Yeah, we can change, we can add questions.
And then I will hands down go with you.
Do what?
I will hands down next January go with you. and
Good,
we'll-
all right, we would
so-
appreciate
I
it.
just invited a bunch of people to your meeting.
Wonderful, thank
I have
you.
full of solutions.
All right, good, hopefully so, and we'll keep them coming every month.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
On to item number 23, new business, any matter not known or which could not have been reasonably foreseen prior to the posting of the agenda. Mr. Interim City Manager. No new business. And number 24, Commissioner comments. Start with Commissioner Madsen down here.
Can we not go that direction first one time?
All right,
Thank you.
let's go, Lauren.
I have no comments at this time.
Okay. Mark?
Probably already talked too much already, so I'm good.
Okay. Ashley? Didn't work out too good for you there. You got a little bit of a head start.
Happy Father's Day, it's the month of June.
You stole my line.
I'll be brief. I think everybody wants to get out here. I wanted to say that I am pretty excited on that presentation for the Safe Streets and Roads for All. And then the AARP grant, I think that'll be neat. I noticed that it ends in December, so they've got a few months there to try to figure out how to spend that. And again, I want to thank Susan for coming up and giving us the report. So that'll be it until.
I'll also be brief. I would like to express my agreement with Mark's comment about the sales tax, and I think that it does decline, it goes up and down. But what we need from the city of Shawnee and its citizens regarding that is pretty much all the help we can get. So as our Shawnee citizens are shopping, please make a conscious effort to do everything in town and give us as much. We need loyalty. We need our citizens to be loyal to us when they're buying. This helps, and it seems that statement kind of could come off as greedy, and it's not meant to be that way. We cannot do better in this town without the sales tax dollars. That is our entire funding source. So be conscious, shop local. And there are some things that don't collect sales tax that, if you go outside of Oklahoma City, or if there's something that's not available in Shawnee, but if there's a way we can get it, let us know. If there's something that we need to look for as far as economic development to bring to this town that you are constantly, or friends and family are constantly going outside of Shawnee to attain or to purchase, let us know. Let us know what that is. We will grow as we become more loyal to each other, and spend your dollars here. Help us help you. And happy Father's Day. And happy 4th of July, too. That's coming up, too.
Kind of like to expand on that. I'm a huge proponent, shop local, shop small business. It not only helps our tax situation, but you're also supporting your neighbors in their jobs. You're not only supporting that store, but all the employees as well, and their families as well. And also like to say Happy Father's Day to everybody. It's something we always take for granted, but we should always remember they're not always going to be there. So, all right. We're going to recess the City Commission meeting by the power of the chair and convene Shawnee Airport Authority and Shawnee Municipal Authority. Before we do that, does anybody need a potty break?
It's fine for now, I'm fine for now.
Fine for now?
Yeah, we go to executive session.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Report next.
Yep, report.
Oh, it's doing it. No.
You can do the.
Can you see me?
You can do the Roman.
You can't see me, can you? Am I in there? Yeah, I think so. Okay, hold on. Oh, no, it's not. Okay, hold on. It likes to play games. Is it still no? I can do thumbs up or whatever. You want me to quit messing? Okay, I hit join, didn't hit present or voting. No?
Tech assistance.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. Oh, wait, did that work? Did that work? It looked like it worked. Okay, sweet.
Oh, I was bringing the hammer.
Okay.
Yes, that was mouthing
I have to bite my lip.
you. I don't know, it shows me in there.
I love that so much. Whether that was true or not, Lisa, way to go. Get her.
I don't blush very much, but here I am.
Try that mouse.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, we're ready?
Get verbal.
Yeah, I did. All right, item number 1, Airport Authority, consider approval of the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. And so we'll move to item number 2, consideration of amendment to commercial aeronautical use agreement for Red Cloud Aviation, deferred from the May 22nd, 2025 Shawnee Airport Authority meeting. Call on Bonnie Wilson, Airport Manager, for staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. As Mayor mentioned, this item was deferred from the May 22nd, 2025 meeting of the Airport Authority to give the Airport Advisory Board another chance to consider it. And thank you for all the support that went into making sure we actually had a quorum that night. So the simple answer is that the board did meet. They did review both of the requests put forward by Red Cloud Aviation, one to expand for charter service, one for the agricultural services, and the Airport Advisory Board did vote unanimously to recommend that this body approve that amendment to their commercial operating agreement. Be happy to answer any questions you have on those.
Questions for Bonnie on the amendment? Okay. And we get a motion.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Item carries 6-0. On item number 3, consideration of commercial non-aeronautical land use agreement for property development for the Young Men's Christians Association of Shawnee, Oklahoma, Inc., YMCA.
Yes, sir. The Airport Advisory Board was asked to consider the request made by the YMCA to lease a property on Federal Street, and it's approximately 3.14 acres of undeveloped property at this time for the purposes of constructing a child care sports facility on that land. The Airport Advisory Board did review the request and the proposed lease language and voted unanimously to recommend that this body accept that offer and execute a non-aeronautical commercial lease agreement with the YMCA.
Like to make a motion to defer to a future date due to the fact there were some information, this is a fluid thing, and more information came available to me today. And I'm not sure if everybody's got that information or not. So I'd like to make a motion to defer to a future date.
I'll second.
We're good at that tonight.
Tie, flip a coin.
So with that, does that exclude special call, or can that be included in special call? So it can be a special call? Okay, thank you.
What was your question?
If a future date excluded a special call meeting, but it doesn't, I just want to make sure. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion carries 6-0 to defer to a future date. Item number 4, consideration of a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2025 through 2026 budget for the Shawnee Airport Authority for the period of July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Call on Ms. Courtney Conrad for a staff report.
The fiscal year 25-26 budget has been sent to you all, and tonight staff recommends approval for the FY 25-26 budget for the Shawnee Airport Authority. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Courtney on this item? Nope. Okay. Can we get a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. We'll call the city attorney to read the resolution title.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution approving and adopting the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget for the Shawnee Airport Authority, Oklahoma for the period July 1, 2025 through June 30, 2026.
Motion carries 6-0. Any new business at the airport, Mr. City Manager?
No, sir.
Okay. Adjourn by the power of the chair and go to the Shawnee Municipal Authority agenda. Maybe.
Ashley,
Get.
oh. My thumbs up. It's not liking me. Can you see me? You can? Really? Oh, okay. Are we all done? I didn't think I.
Sweet.
Sweet.
I fixed.
All right. Item number 1 on the Municipal Authority. Consider approval of the consent agenda. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second.
I didn't even get a chance to vote.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0 on item number 2. Consideration of a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2025-26 budget for the Shawnee Municipal Authority for the period of July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Ms. Courtney Conrad, it's up again.
Once again, the fiscal year 25-26 budget has been sent to you all, and tonight staff recommends approval for the FY 25-26 budget for the Shawnee Municipal Authority.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Any questions for Courtney on this one? Can we get a motion for approval?
Second.
Mark and Ashley. And we have to call on City Attorney to read a resolution title.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution approving and adopting the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget for the Shawnee Municipal Authority, Oklahoma for the period July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026.
Motion carries 6-0. Item number 3, any new business, Mr. City Manager?
No, sir.
Item number 4, we're going to adjourn by the power of the chair and reconvene the city commission agenda item number 25. Okay, let's get out of there. Ooh, that didn't work.
Can you see me? I don't know if mine worked or not. It seemed like it didn't.
Sweet.
Nice.
Item number 25, consideration to enter into an executive session for discussion in accordance with 25 Oklahoma Statute 307B4, confidential communications between a public body and its attorney concerning a pending investigation, claim, or action if the public body, with the advice of its attorney, determines that disclosure will seriously impair the ability of the public body to process the claim or conduct a pending investigation, litigation, or proceeding in the public interest of the relating to the Santa Fe Depot. Any discussion on the board on this? Okay,
Make a motion to move to executive session.
I'll second.
motion and a second.
We're good?
There we go. Carry 6-0. It's like, come back. Didn't take.
We should print a copy. Kidding, no, you can have one.
Okay, we're going to reconvene city commission meeting by the power of the chair. Item number 26, consideration of matters discussed in executive session for discussion in accordance with 25 Oklahoma Statute 307B4, confidential communications between a public body and its attorney concerning a pending investigation, claim, or action if the public body, with the advice of its attorney, determines that disclosure will seriously impair the ability of the public body to process the claim or conduct a pending investigation, litigation, or proceeding in the public interest relating to the Santa Fe Depot. Any discussion? I think we're all discussed out.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to negotiate a limited access agreement with the PCHS for limited access to the Santa Fe Depot.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Yes, one more time. Motion to direct staff to negotiate a limited access agreement with the PCHS Board for limited access to the Santa Fe Depot.
Me.
Motion carries 6-0. And with that, we are adjourned.
You didn't have